Welcome to the first meeting of the Mousehold Heath Conservators of the civic year. It's the 16th of June, and we'll start with the appointment of chair. Could I have nominations, please?
Yep. I nominate Councillor Mike Sands.
Yep. Do I have a second? I'll second that. Yep. Do I have any other nominations? No. Duly elected. Over to you, Chair.
Oops. Okay, good afternoon everyone, and so this is the start of our formal business, having elected me as chair, and thank you very much. Our next item is to appoint a vice chair for the civic year.
Propose Councillor Martin Heath, please.
Do we have a seconder for Martin? Yep, Councillor Kendrick. Do we have any other nominations? We have a seconder for Gary.
Yes.
Right, okay, so we have a seconder.
Yeah,
So we have two nominations, both been seconded, so we just go to a vote, show of hands. So no special order. Those who would like to see Martin Peake as deputy chair this year, please raise your hands.
Yeah.
And those who would like to see Gary Champion as deputy chair this year. Right, I think Martin has been duly elected, but I dare say we'll be able to find some extraordinary roles for Gary throughout this year as well. Okay, we move on to item 3, which is apologies. Do we have any apologies?
Yes, Chair, we've had apologies from Councillor Lovett, and Matthew Davies isn't here either.
Right, so those apologies are duly noted, and we hope they're both okay. Declarations of interest. Other than fact, we are all interested in being here. Do we have any declarations of interest pertaining to anything on the agenda? No declarations of interest, but lots of smiles, so that's good. That's very positive. Public questions and petitions. Do we have any public questions or petitions?
None received, Chair.
So no questions or petitions received, which we do have from time to time for those who are new to the committee. Appointments to the management subgroup, which is item 6. This is to appoint members of the management subgroup, which meets on occasion for, when special out of the ordinary items arise that need to be dealt with beyond the normal sphere of the committee. This comprises the chair and vice chair and up to 3 other conservators, which is 1 councillor, 1 Mousehold defender and 1 member of the Norwich Society. I suppose we need nominations from the councillors for that. Do we have anyone who would like to be?
I nominate Claire Kidman, Councillor Claire Kidman.
Okay, Claire Kidman's been nominated as appointment of the management subgroup. Do we have any other nominations?
We're fine.
Right, no worries. Okay then. 1 Mousehold Heath defender. Marion. Right, so Marion would like to be nominated. Do we need a second?
No, so as the representative from Mousehold Heath Defenders, Marion would automatically be on the subgroup, as with John Trevelyan as the member for the Norwich Society. Yeah.
Both automatically on. Now, I believe Marion has something she would like to announce to the committee. I think now would be a good time to do that, if that's okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Can you just pull your microphone just a shade closer?
The Mousehold defenders have been nominated to receive an award that was won by the Royal Norwich and as community champions. The defenders had a meeting and decided that I was the person to go and get it, as I've been a very good defender. I'm not sure what it's all about, but it's there's had many years of with the Conservators of working with the council, doing a lot on the actually on the so I couldn't really turn it down. I never found I get to get through tickets for the show, so
Which is certainly not to be turned down.
so I've got to go along, and the annual award ceremony is the last item on the agenda on the first day. And apparently it's something really good to get a sash apparently. My other half was really, really impressed. He said, I really feel on the island, so I know that, thank you very much. But it is a reflection to this group, because we've always been in touch with them and the and things like that. So I'm really quite impressed.
Oh, I think we all are. I think it's an honour. I mean, it's a good recognition of Mousehold Conservators, recognition of Mousehold Defenders, and something really, really great for Marion. I think a little round of applause is appropriate. Okay, we now move on to item 7, which is the management subgroup meeting dates, which is Friday the 28th of July, Friday 17th of November, and Friday the 16th of February, all at 2:30. Anyone have a problem with any of those dates that they can think of right now? Councillor Francis.
Yes, Chair. I'm having an operation soon, so I can't come to a few meetings.
Yep, not a problem. You'll be able to send a sub along for your group for that. So, hopefully.
Sorry, this is the dates for the subgroup meetings, not the committee.
Not the committee meeting. Yeah.
Not for the Mousehold.
So we don't need to worry.
You don't need to worry about these dates. I mean, any member would be welcome to attend them at the discretion of the chair, but the committee dates are within the schedule that was agreed at the annual council in May. It's the dates of the Mousehold Heath Conservators.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
But we hope your operation goes well anyway.
Thank you.
Minutes. We need to approve the accuracy of the minutes held on the 17th of March, and they are on pages 5 to 8. Does anyone have anything they would like to raise in terms of accuracy of the minutes, or are we all agreed that they are a true and accurate record? Agreed? Oh, good. Excellent. No worries. So, having lost my page, we now move on to item 9, which is Mousehold Heath Conservators 22-23 provisional year-end outturn. You'll find that on pages 9 to 14, and the purpose of that is to provide the provisional year-end outturn position. So if we turn to page 9. And who's presenting this?
Thank you, Chair. As you can see, it's a slight underspend in outturn net expenditure of 236,249 against the budget of 246,082. That results in the revenue balance being increased from 33,843 to 40,868. The capital is just the interest that's been accrued on the capital that was secured on the sale of the London's house in the Heath. That now stands at 106,128. There aren't any major variances on the revenue outturn. Just one positive thing is the kitchen up income was 4,097 against budget of 1,800, so that's really positive to see.
So pitch and putt doing very well. That's good. I think Councillor Peake, you had something you wanted to query on.
Yeah. Just query, on page 13, for electricity, it said the budget was 1,554, an underspend of 968, it comes to 2522. Are they right figures on that one?
I'll come in. That's okay. That's okay. I haven't got the information to hand, but I'm guessing that would be something a rebate there.
I'll rebate.
It's not an underspend as such. That's something I think positive variance if you look at it. Basically, what it's saying is we got £968 more in, £968 in against the expenditure of the £1,500. So that's suggesting that's something a rebate rather than a expenditure.
That's good. Do we have any questions? Councillor Kidman.
Thank you, Chair. I'm right here, but the biggest underspend is around the general maintenance budget was 15,000 and the actual spend was 4,028. Just wondering why. I was curious. It's quite a saving.
Yeah. Okay, so I think the work did take place. It come out of different budgets, budget codes. Sorry, so different budget codes. So further down, there's been some 2239. Yeah. 2239. So the main recharge in general maintenance operations contract is 61,000 out and 66,000 budget. So I think it's just a bit of duplication. And also further down, sometimes SSRB work may accrue to a different subjective. So it's, I mean, again, further down the budget sheet, there's works, there's overspends, or budget a little bit further down, I think. Where they potentially grounds general maintenance is on here twice. So it's 2231. Some of those 21.
There's a couple of things that have happened. So one is that we have the programme of works that NCSL do on our behalf, but we also have a reactive repair budget. And I think, as I was saying, some of them are miscoded. What we also identified last year was that there was issues with the payment for the football pitch maintenance, and that was in the general contract for the council, but also being paid out in Mousehold Heath, so we basically paid the same thing twice up to last year. So that means that Mousehold Heath will benefit from the fact that we don't have to pay the football pitch maintenance. That's covered by the general contract. And I think that's where a lot of the understanding comes from, and probably the fact that we may not carry out as much reactive repairs as well on Heath. And that would be an indication that we're not doing what we should, there's been less required, I think, and we use the volunteers and things like that.
That's right, yeah. I mean, 4055 NCSL was recharged 0.6,000. So that again, that is the difference between the two.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't. Just for clarification, I didn't think it was anything to do with work not being done. It was just a sort of a case of understanding the budget a little bit more.
Councillor Francis, did you have a question? I thought I saw you. No idea. Councillor Champion, and then I almost said Councillor Max, so I still haven't got used to the fact that you've left the council, Marion.
I was just curious about the sponsorship. The sponsorship for £329 who donated, out of curiosity. Do we know?
Yeah, that would be for a sponsored bench.
Oh, okay. So that's what it got spent on
That's right.
somewhere. Okay. Where's the bench?
Bench on the wing field.
Okay. Thank you.
Marion Maxwell.
Listed on the football, 2014, and nothing in the actual.
I'll take that one if that's okay. This is an ongoing saga where the football pitch wasn't made available for booking for various reasons. Some of them were maintenance. We also do the issue of the goalposts and things like that. So the pitch wasn't available for booking last year. And that was an error on the Council part. But if you'll note in the next report that we consider, that's now a permanent let. We've got a let in place anyway, but the reason we won't have any income there is because it's aware of the that wasn't available for booking.
I know I've seen it, I've got some real people, and every time I've gone past it, it's still on news.
Yeah, so that's now been addressed, but we won't have any bookings in there. Now, it may be that the income has been received elsewhere within the budget, but certainly it wasn't available as a bookable pitch.
So we're still going to keep it in?
Beg your pardon?
We're still going to keep it on as a business?
Yes, because we will get income from the football club. Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. Any more questions? Councillor Champion.
I was just curious also about the responsive repairs, but it's got nothing accounted for it in the budget. Do we normally have that much responsive repairs in a year? Or is that a specific?
Yeah.
There was a large amount of ad hoc repairs last year, significant amount. So the notice boards were stolen, and a number of infrastructure items were vandalised. So the typical bad year for the active and the high bearing was damaged. And of course with costs rising, that is a significant amount. And again, I think that the corporate services have taken, if there wasn't actually a budget, they've actually taken that from a different budget code, which is on there, which sort of explains why there wasn't any budget in that, and we'll be speaking to corporate services to make sure that they take it from the correct budget code. But it's sort of borderline, certainly was in budget.
But it was just not. Okay, no, that's fine. Thank you.
Right, great. So, any more questions on this item? There seems to be the recommendation is to, I suppose, approve the provisional end of year out term. So, are we agreed on that? Yep, good. I see lots of nods, and so we can move on now to item 10, which begins on page 15. Mousehold Heath Conservators annual report for 22-23. And who's introducing this? Is that you, Will, or Adam?
I'll just briefly thank the audience, the defenders, and the various groups that have been working on the volunteering and fantastic report, fantastic hard work, lots of achievements, and I have very Thank you. As you can see, it's been a busy year on the Heath. I'll just highlight a few points and then take questions at the end, if that's okay. Lots of activities, and the surveys have all been undertaken, and I'll just highlight a butterfly survey. So on page 27, two butterflies are undertaken by myself and with support from community volunteers that we really enjoy getting involved. And there's one that's taken place since 2003,
on the western side of the Heath, or the western side of Gurney Road, and there's one that was taking place for 6-7 years on the eastern side, which started many years ago. As you can see from the charts here on page 27, there's been good and bad years, and there's obviously there's good years of weather and bad years. There's lots of sort of external factors that affect butterflies and other insects, but you can see particularly on the Mousehold Heath trend set, you can see that we've managed to develop a trend line there, and that's still increasing, which is positive, and could possibly demonstrate that the work that the Conservators is carrying out is particularly effective to conserve and restore open habitats such as heath and grassland and woodland glades. It's been successful. 2019 there was an amazing year for butterflies across Norfolk and the country, and that's reflected on both surveys. On both surveys, the trend line is increasing. It was a challenging year last year, and with the heat, and butterfly numbers were greatly reduced in August and September, which demonstrated that butterfly flight periods were not shorter. So basically, lack of, particularly on the sandy soils and Mousehold, lack of pollen and nectar, and also food plants growing up as well. I spoke to the county recorder, the BMS coordinator, and he said that this was reflected around the county. So it wasn't, it wasn't a site-specific decline. Although Mousehold may have been interested because of the soil, affected because of the soils. So he stated that in 2022 there were 15,784 butterflies recorded in Norfolk on the BMS surveys in August and September, and compared to 6,211 in 2022. So that's a big drop in numbers there. So 15,784 in 2021, and then 6,011 in 2022. So that certainly indicates that numbers in Norfolk and on the Heath dropped off quite steeply during the extreme dry conditions of last year. So it was actually, last summer during the itinerary we walked around, and I thought that it was going to be a terrible year, but actually the spring was a good spring for butterflies. It's actually, as you can see, the figures there in the report. Actually, the western side was at a slight increase in spite of the very dry conditions in August, September, and there was just a slight decrease on the eastern side. So overall, it's great to see the trend line increasing, and I think with increasing extreme weather, the diverse range of habitats, the structure and the mixture of diversity of habitat, the woodland, grass and heathland, will hopefully see the heath be able to continue those upward trend lines. Let's move on to the volunteer figures now. So last year there were 3,202 community volunteer work hours. So it's been great working with the volunteers. I've learned loads from them, and they've really enjoyed being up on the heath. So I'll just read out the names. Amazing efforts. The conservation volunteers, the Mousehold Heath Defenders, the Assist Trust, Mousehold Heath Mouseketeers, the Monday Tuesday group which I run, NatWest, WPS, Crown Commercial, Angle Water, Aviva, Good Gym, Norwich High School for Girls, the 8th Norwich Club Group, and half a man of volunteers, and many, many volunteers in the community that have contributed to managing Heath. So a big thank you to them. I also had an Eastern College student join me last year. Haven't had a work placement student for a few years. He completed a 150-hour work placement, which went very well. He's actually going to join me next week to do some volunteering through the summer. And he's completed the land and management wildlife course at Eastern last year, and now he's going to go on to the arboricultural course next year, which is a 2-year course. So he's asked to do another work placement, so this time it'll be winter work, which he's particularly interested in, horticulture and trees. So he'll be coming out with me to do another 150 hours. Again, a big success during that time. With thanks to your support, we've put him through a first aid course. He's now first aid trained, a use of the chipper course, and I'm going to do I'm going to drive down and do a chainsaw pipe course, so a pole saw course in a couple of weeks' time. So we're going to do that together, so he'll be trained to help me next winter. And also, it will be an advantage for him to go into the arbor course with these certificates. So that's been a big success, and it's hopefully we can continue that going forward. I'm not quite as young as I used to be, and I've really enjoyed passing on my knowledge and skills to a student, and because I've been very lucky over my time, over 20 years in conservation management, so it's been great to have Heath who's 18, and we can I think pass those skills on. I wonder whether there's any questions at all?
Chair, I've got a question. Last year you ran was it a scything course? Will you be doing that again? So I dare say there may be 1 or 2 people here interested in joining in on that.
That's right. Again, that's in the annual course. We ran 2 scything courses, thanks to your support for TCB and also Mousehold volunteers. Again, a big success. 8 volunteers were trained on each course, and yes, if there's demand, then it'd be good to organise another course. We've now got large wildflower meadow areas on the Heath, and Balneary Conservation cut in September, and the aside is the ideal tool for that. All the benefits of using aside, obviously a much more sensitive tool, and also, it's actually good exercise if you use the right manual handling techniques, and everyone really enjoyed it. So there'll certainly be another opportunity, and I'll let members know when the date is in September.
Oh, good. I missed it last year, and I can see a couple of faces right now looking curious, so I'm certain they would like to take part. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Any other questions from members of the committee? Councillor Champion.
Just in relation, because I noticed you've got the Norwich High School for Girls. Have you got any other? Because before, I'm sure you've said about other schools attending, but has that not happened this year or coming up?
Yeah, I mean, there's another big action day coming up for Norwich High School for Girls. They bring a group every Monday afternoon, and there's an activity in 2 weeks' time for 60 students. So they'll be split into 3 groups. They'll be doing butterfly surveys with me, they'll be doing a history walk with teachers, and they'll also potentially be doing some people management work, some grappling management as well. Mousehold Infant School have been involved through the Norwich schools, and there have been inquiries. I did spend a day with a teacher from Sprowston School, and we put an activity day together linked to the syllabus, but he hasn't got back to me. Sorry.
No. I think that's brilliant, and I know other schools who run forest school groups would love to use that as a resource, and I think that's something really developed.
Yeah, we've got 3 forest schools on the Heath, but it's such an ideal site. They're just walking distance from so many schools, but it's certainly something absolutely key to engage with children, and it's something that we'd like to develop. And I think Councillor Kidman would like to say a few words.
Yeah, that seems like a good point to mention. In the previous meeting, as you've seen in minutes, I volunteered to find out about doing some talks in local schools. I identified 9 schools that are within 1.1 miles of the Heath, and 7 of them are within a mile. I haven't written to them all because if they all wanted a school talk, I might be a bit overwhelmed. But Heartsease Primary School has responded, and they're the closest actually. They're 0.1 miles, and the school would like me to come in and speak to Year 6 or the Eco Council. I was thinking about it taking the form of a presentation with some nice photographs, appropriate photographs to the talk, and perhaps with a volunteer, an appropriate volunteer who could then help with the Q&A, because there'll be lots of questions I won't be able to answer. So I think that's going to be one of the next steps, is finding a willing volunteer who knows about sustainability on the Heath. That's a subject they're interested in, certainly this school anyway. So that's where we're at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Could I see you volunteering there, Marion? Oh, great. No worries. Councillor Champion.
That's fantastic. Councillor Kidman, that's great. I was just going to suggest I'd be willing to share the load if you can't reach out to all the schools. I'd be more than happy to collaborate with you. As an ex-teacher, I'll be, like yourself, be familiar with the territory and would be happy to help this for the record.
That's much appreciated, and I'm certain that Councillor Kidman will take you up on that. Any other questions? Were there any other points you wanted to raise from that report, Will? Marianne, I'm going to say Councillor Maxwell again.
I've just moved on to the farming business.
So could you speak up a little bit?
Yeah. I think it's
The fan, yeah.
Obviously, it's a big drop in the road. The police have finished their action. Personally, I was really bit annoyed because they did it in the wrong time. Because the boy races don't start until the police go. So I go to pick up someone when we go to meetings, and I can cut across. And for the first time last week, I saw the guys and the cars they weren't arresting me there, but they weren't going on the car park. So I think they think it's still in the police. But there was, I actually, there was about 3 arrests, so there was only one way in which to get through. And that started last Friday night. That's the first time I've ever done that. So I think we mustn't lose sight of this, because it could get out of control now.
For the benefit of our new members, up on Britannia Road, in the car park by the jail, there's been for years problems of hoons and boy racers creating a huge nuisance which causes problems to the residents further along. The police introduced a road closure order which ran for 3 months, which was April, May and June, and the idea was they only last for 3 months, but the idea was they would go back to the magistrate and ask for another 3 months, which would be July, August and September. But when the police officers went back to the courts to ask for that extra 3-month extension, for whatever reason, the magistrate must have had the reasons, they refused it. So it comes back down now to we're waiting on the outcome of our PSPO, Public Space Protection Order, which will be a city-wide thing, but will include elements of Britannia Road and Mousehold Heath. And Councillor Giles, do you have anything you'd like to, because you've had a lot more to do with the PSPO than any of us here have. So.
Yes, so the PSPO, Public Space Protection Order in relation to vehicle nuisance, will be going to the July cabinet. I appreciate that there's a gap there between the closure order ending at the end of the month and that cabinet coming into effect. However, we've been pushing it for some time. If you want more details about what that entails or what that will cover, then I'm happy to send that over in the notice.
So hopefully that will be successful. If it's not, you can probably expect another Mousehold meeting up in the car park here at some stage with police presence and probably highways as well. But hopefully it won't come to that, and hopefully we'll get the PSPO in place and get that sorted for the long term. Right, so nothing else there on item 10?
Right.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Champion.
I had just before we move on from Will's report, because I think we did, but I just told some of my residents I'd ask you about the vinegar pond, because and I've been told by the Mousehold vendors, I think they did a post about it saying they'd spoken to you and they're trying to alleviate fears, but I've got a lot of people concerned about the colour of the pond and whether it's good for their dogs, and obviously the encouragement for dogs not to go in. And then I've got a whole other demographic of people who are concerned about the lack of frog spawn and frogs. And so I just wanted to get some clarity on the vinegar pond, if I could, just momentarily.
Thanks. So let's deal with the frog spawn first. There was frog spawn this year, but the population is declining in the vinegar pond, and that's due to the fish that were in there last year, that were discovered there last year, and the goldfish and carp. And as you know, many fish were removed, and of course they would eat anything, and so the tadpoles I should think would be quite high up on their menu. So that's clearly had an effect. Although a survey was undertaken and most of the fish removed, it's highly unlikely, and actually fish have been observed again in the pond, unfortunately. So we already plan to have another go at removing the fish this autumn, but I think it's going to be an ongoing situation, because there's always going to be one or two that's managed to escape. It's very disappointing, because going back many years, there's always been lots of frogs and spawn, and this is the first incident of fishing with it, or certainly since I've been here for years. The Cow Tower Pond had a terrapin for a while, which did a similar chasing effect on the tadpole population there. But that's been removed many years ago. So it's ongoing to remove fish, and hopefully that the situation will. I mean, the Heath is fantastic habitat for ponds. What I would also say that the new pond, the wildlife pond, or being named the Mustard Pond in the valley, was created due to the fact that the vinegar pond was drying up in the summer. So this was created as a kind of backup to the vinegar pond in those days. So we're talking about 11 years ago, and the frog spawn is increasing there, and it's actually a much better place. Frog spawn, there's less disturbance, there's more shade, so every year it's kind of increasing. I think there's a kind of natural progression from the vinegar pond to the mustard pond. Newts have been viewed in there as well. The sort of tadpoles, there's still hundreds of tadpoles in there, but they're just developing lakes now, and they'll be, even if the dry weather continues, there'll be enough water in there for the frogs to emerge and move on. just got to hope that if we can shift the fish, if we remove the fish to a safe environment elsewhere, the frog population will recover, because there's certainly the right habitat there. The water quality, as far as we know, there was earlier in the year we had a dry sunny spell, and occasionally a discoloration occurs, but it wasn't. Don't think it was toxic in any way. It certainly wasn't blue-green algae or anything like that. It's a kind of red colour, and an expert said that the Heath oil is some kind of bacteria, sort of natural bacteria which wouldn't affect anything, and it's actually gone now. I mean, it has dissipated when we've had the heavy rain. He seemed to think that it may have been encouraged by the mineral soil in the pond, so it's got obviously lots of clay, sands and tills, and he thought that the bacteria was kind of responding to that, combined with the warm weather. But there certainly wasn't any evidence that it was a problem in any way. But I have to agree, it didn't look good at that time, but it has gone.
Thank you very much, Rob.
But the mustard pond situation is encouraging. Councillor Giles.
Thanks, Chair. I just got up the PSPO, so I can't do that a little bit. So all persons committed in carrying out, promoting, encouraging or assisting in carrying out any activity or behaviour connected to the use of the motor vehicle which involves any of the following, which causes or is likely to cause harassment and or alarm and or distress to any person. And the list is A, producing excessively loud noise, including but not limited to regular motor vehicle's engine, sounding horn, and playing amplified music. B, danger to other road users, including pedestrians. C, damage or risk of damage to private property. D, shouting or swearing at or abusing or threatening or otherwise intimidating another person. B, congregating in a group of at least 3 persons in or around 2 or more stationary motor vehicles. And that's again only if it will cause or likely to cause harassment or distress. F, carrying out any action not currently the proceeding which causes or is likely to cause vehicle-related nuisance or vehicle-related danger to another person. And this will be able to issue an FPM for breach of that PSPA, which will be administered and enforced by us, and they'll be liable for prosecution whether to not pay that FPM.
Right, so I think that's cleared up a lot of concerns around the PSPO. Do we have any more questions? I notice you looking interested there, Councillor Francis.
Thank you, Chair. I was just asking about what restrictions there are on damaging the natural habitat through this kind of action. Whether there's anything that can be imposed if the land is protected.
Well, as far as protecting the habitat goes, I think Will would probably be best to answer that, or unless there's something specifically in the PSPO, I don't think there would be though.
I mean, there'd be bylaws in relation to doing anything on the Heath land itself. This is in relation to the car park and highways. Obviously, a number of wildlife has been sadly mowed down as a result of this behaviour. So, hopefully, deterring this activity will have positive influence to the wildlife in the group.
Thank you.
Any other points on this item? Rather, the recommendation is to note the contents of the report. So, are we all agreed that the contents are duly noted and we've had fair comment on them? Good. I see again lots of shaking of heads, nodding of heads. Sorry, not shaking of heads. we come to the most exciting part of today's meeting, which is item 11, which is setting the date for our itinerant, which is our visit to Mousehold Heath as a committee, which is always interesting and exciting. I usually take my dogs along. If anyone else has any dogs, they're welcome to bring them along as well. So, dates.
I think we usually go for the sort of first Friday in September is what we usually go for, isn't it?
First Friday in September. I haven't got my new diary with me. This one finishes.
1st of September.
See if I can find the calendar in here.
Friday the 1st.
Friday the 1st, yep. I have county highways in the morning, so usual time in the afternoon. Right,
What sort of time is it?
We usually set off for around 2 or 2. Well, in previous years the committee was at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but due to the doors issues, we've moved it to 2:30. But so 2 o'clock, I think we usually meet at the car park at Saks, don't we? At 2 o'clock.
Would you object to dogs and children?
You don't object to dogs and children,
I have a 7-year-old and
as long as the children don't bite the dogs. I mean,
okay.
yeah. No worries. So, itinerant, including dogs and children, Friday the 1st of September at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, meeting at Zach's car park. Are we all agreed on that?
Yeah.
Oh, good, then we are looking forward to that. It should be a really interesting afternoon. It always is. Rightio. I think that was the last item on our agenda, unless anyone would like to mention or raise anything else briefly. We've mentioned the PSPO, so that's been good. So we done Council Champion?
Just all it is I've been contacted by residents, got a lot of residents who live on Britannia Road right adjacent to the Heath. So, and I've been told that there's been a couple of times where there has been drug stashes found on the Heath. And when I was doing a litter pick a while ago, we found an area which I reported to the council. They came and did a needle sweep and collected. But apparently I've heard a couple more incidents of this occurring. I was just wondering if that was something on your radar, or if the police are. I'm just curious, really, if it's just people talking to me about hearsay, or if there's any more substance to it that you're aware of.
On St James's Hill, or?
I think it's near the, along from like the rhododendrons and the lower ponds, going up towards Zach's, I think. But I mean, I'm not, I need to track down the residents and go for a walk with them, I guess.
Yeah, there haven't been any items for quite a while now. Obviously, we've spoken about issues in that area in the past, but that's not.
But nothing later.
But that's not currently.
Okay, I'll follow it up and I'll get back to you.
Yeah. It'd be good to know where. I mean, that people may have found them, and I haven't found out basically. But,
Yeah.
It'd be good to know.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
No, certainly in any of our parks and gardens, it does happen from time to time. If anyone does come across it, it's best to report it to the police, especially if you're familiar with the local policing team, and they can take it from there. Okay, so if there's nothing else, I'd like to thank everyone for coming along. Not Councillor, Mary Maxwell.
No, just very quickly, is there any progress on the toilets?
Oh, good question. Progress on the toilets.
Right, okay. Yeah. So the project is ready to start in mid-April, I think it was. There's been a hold-up which I haven't got to the bottom of yet. I sent a chaser out earlier in the week, and then one again this morning to get an update. The work's are ready to go. I'm not quite sure what the hold-up is. I know there was we identified some issues with the faces and the guttering in the top. But that I could email the Council Sands to go ahead for that. So it's all ready to go. I'm just waiting on a date. So as soon as I get it, I'll provide that to our councillor Sandra or councillor Jerry and get that sent out.
Yeah, we could email that out to all members of the committee. Yeah.
I'm just a little bit worried because it won't be done out enough. It's coming up to more and more people.
Yeah, well, I'm worried as well because, as I say, it's been a 2 month delay.
You can't get it done with the council, give you flexibility to work. I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
How long would it take?
I don't think the works are that substantial, albeit there's quite a lot of money involved. But I'll need to find out. I don't know if that information.
Yeah, it's just a thought of it. It's the one thing I keep asking me.
Yeah, understandable. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think we need to get it done as soon as we possibly can, if necessary, put the temporary loo up there. Okay, well, thank everyone for coming along this Friday afternoon. I certainly would have much preferred being at home in your gardens or in the local park, so